Yeah. Just looking for my water bottle. Shit, I'm already 2 minutes late. What have I done? You'd think doing this for so long would make me be on time. I guess 2 minutes late isn't really late, is it? Would you count it as late? Comment below. Let me know. Let me go with the flow, yo. I'm in our lip. This is the way Dylan spits. All right, I gotta refill this water. I'll be back. Don't turn away. Had me do a little musical number. See if I can redo it for you guys right now. Right here, right now. What was it? Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, they both, oh yes, they both, oh yes, they both reach for the gun, the gun, the gun, the gun. Oh yes, they both reach for the gun, for the gun. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, they both, oh yes, they both, oh yes, they both reach for the gun, the gun, the gun, the gun. Oh yes, they both reach for the gun, for the gun. Understandable, understandable. Yes, it's perfectly understandable. Comprehensible, comprehensible. Not a bit reprehensible. It's so defensible. Oh, man. I took out a lot more breath than I thought. I'm not a musical guy, but I was impressed with myself that I could remember that. For some reason, the request was sing me a song, and I'm like, and they're like, musical. I'm like, I don't like musicals, but that was the first song that came in my head. Anyways, enough about me. Why don't we talk about other things, like films and such, in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, hi. Hello. Hi. Hello. Hi. Hi. And welcome back to Popcorn Poppin' live with your host, the Popcorn Poppy. That's what they call me out in these streets. We're going to jump right into it, folks, with what was the new film that came out this week. You know, a few films came out that were new. One was highly anticipated. I mean, I don't know. Damn, dude. I didn't have time for a shower before this. I swear I do showers. I swear. Anyways, if I look homeless, that's on you. It's not on me. It's on you because I was overthinking the editing and stuff of this episode. But, you know, there's not going to be anything that special except for a little special film called Bad Boys Ride or Die. It's in theaters right now. And it is the 4th installment of the Bad Boys saga. It's time to join Mike Lowry and Marcus Burnett. I should know this. Mike Lowry and Burnett. I was right. Okay, I thought I made that up for a second. Another adventure of Mike Lowry and Marcus Burnett on a ragtag adventure, being bad and being boys and riding and or dying for life. They did that last time. That's right, for life. There's Bad Boys 1, Bad Boys 2, Bad Boys for Life, missed opportunity, and now Bad Boys Ride or Die. Let's first start off with Bad Boys 1. It's a classic film. What was it, made in like 1995 or something? It was in the 90s, a simpler time, a more fun time. A Michael Bay time before Transformers, where he was starting to learn the ins and outs of making a really cool-looking action film. Not one of the best action films ever, even though it's people's favorite Bad Boys entry, which I totally understand why. It's a great film. It's funny. It's got the action, and it's fun. You know, it's easy. 2 is an epic. I was talking the other day with someone who, really nice guy, but he said that 2 was too long. And I said, fuck you. I slapped him in the face. I tied his shoes when he wasn't looking. And then when he got up to like retaliate, I ran towards a pool and I like broke his ankles, but he forgot that his shoes were tied and he tripped. And instead of actually going into the pool, he hit his head on the side of the pool and he bled out and died. Why am I sharing this? Because that's how much I love Bad Boys 2. I'm willing to commit hijinks murders, which technically I didn't murder. I just tied shoes and then I just moved around. That's it. I called 911 afterwards. And the bad boys showed up. Martin Lawrence and Will Smith gave me the thumbs up and sent me on my way. So no charges filed, which is good. 1 was great. 2, so excellent. It has everything, and it has some of the best action sequences you'll ever see in cinema. Tell me that freeway scene isn't one of the most memorable scenes and not one of the baddest asses of driving and being on the expressway. All the stuff you remember too. I thought it was super fun. Now, when you watch it these days, it is like a little heavy on jokes about masculinity, homophobia, sexism, and all that good stuff. You know, the great old early 2000s. But it's still a really good movie. Still super fun. And it has a really great performance from Martin Lawrence. 3, which is Bad Boys for Life, was fun. It was better than the previous. It was better than the previous one. It wasn't. It was better than what I thought it was going to be when I watched the trailer. When I heard they were doing it, I'm like, it's way too late, man. I don't mind like watching. I mean, if you go back to like the 60s and 70s and stuff, whenever there are cop movies, they were usually older dudes anyway, not dudes in their 20s. And you have like stars like Humphrey Bogart. And, you know, he was more famous for his later years. Either that or I definitely never looked at his age, but I always thought that's an old looking dude that's getting a lot of starring roles. And so I'm okay with old dudes being badasses. And they do make fun of themselves, luckily, in 3 and in this one for being old and still doing non-old things, which are still really, really old. They poke fun at themselves, and it's still fun. But I remember in Bad Boys for Life, there was 2 scenes that I was very upset about at first. I don't like recycling the same thing. Danny Kraft keeps asking me and forgetting that he asked me, and I keep giving him the same answer. What do you think the Houdini music video or the new Houdini song? And, you know, I love Slim Shady. Eminem's one of my favorite rappers, and I am excited about Death of Slim Shady. However, when I watched the Houdini music video, I just saw a bunch of old dudes trying to recapture magic from 30 years ago, 20-ish, over 20 years ago. And I'm okay with paying homage, but when I saw that head bop from Dre and Eminem, I'm like, I don't know, this doesn't feel right. That's my opinion, and not many other people share it because they're like, I thought it was fun. So I knew that Bad Boys 3 and 4 was going to be fun for everybody, and they were both fun for me. It's just when I heard about 3, I'm like, aren't they too old to do this? I feel like they're going to ruin it. And plus, they got rid of Michael Bay, or they got rid of Michael Bay. Michael Bay didn't direct the 3rd one. It was a pair of directors. I don't have their names here, but they actually did the shelved Batgirl film, which I was very interested in seeing. And after seeing Bad Boys 3, I wanted to see Batgirl even more because they surpassed my expectations. The 2 scenes that were callbacks but made fun of. The iconic scene of Mike Lowry putting on that purple suit jacket in Bad Boys 2 and walking in slow motion. And he says, don't hate the player, hate the game. And he goes, hate the tailor. In this, he does the same thing with the purple jacket. And they cut to Marcus. I remembered his name this time. Marcus doing the same thing with a bathrobe because he's going into retirement. And they did really cool cross-cutting between a Playboy cop and a retired cop. And it was very, very funny. The second part in that film that I thought was really, really funny was, man, I can't remember what it was. It was them getting out of the car in slow motion and Marcus dings the door on a fire hydrant. So it can still be fun. You can still do like iconic shots, recycle them, but still make them hilarious in the new take of like, hey, you thought we're going to do the same thing, but we're actually making fun of ourselves a little bit. So that's super dope. When I saw the trailer for Ride or Die, I thought, hey, this will be better than 3. Even though 3 surpassed my expectations, I still figured that it wouldn't be as good for some reason. And, okay, sorry, I just need to make sure that I was still connected. So, Bad Boys, Ride or Die, poppin' or not. Super fun. I'm going to say poppin'. It is a great, easy film, you know? Great popcorn popper. It was really good in theaters. Everyone loved it. It's got action. It's got comedy. Some of the comedy is kind of like cringy, old comedy, you know? And by cringy, old, I don't really mean old like who was on first, who was on second. That kind of old. That'd be ridiculously too old. But the kind of old comedy of like, man, my knees hurt, Mike, or, you know, just like the same shit that you hear all the time. And they do redo the Bad Boys tropes, but it couldn't help but make you smile the whole time. It definitely it felt recycled at a lot of times, but it was mostly fun. Martin Lawrence really had a chance to shine in this film. He was very sidelined in the last film, and I get tired of the safe protagonist that doesn't want to kill people and wants to be safe and be almost religious like he was in For Life. And then like halfway through, he says, yes, I'm supposed to be killing people. And he ends up having fun again. This one, they go for a turn. Because I said after rewatching and watching the third one, I'm like, man, you guys got to unpussify Marcus a little bit. Because he is a badass and he's done badass things. So just make him badass again. I know you can't have 2 just badasses. You have to have a yin and a yang. But, you know, we're tired of seeing the same, like, oh, this is too much. And it was a bit much the route that they went for Marcus. Marcus is experiencing health problems, and he has a near-death experience. And that near-death experience makes him believe that he's almost immortal in a way. A similar storyline that we've seen in recent years. I think I've seen it a few times, but the 2 examples that I can think of, I guess this isn't really recent. It was either Shanghai Noon or Nights when Owen Wilson's character thought he couldn't die, so he's walking into gunfire. Marcus is walking and dancing into traffic. Same with The Nice Guys when Ryan Gosling's character didn't think that he could die, so he was doing some wild shit. I know that there are other movies. One was on the tip of my brain and I can't think of it. So we've seen the storyline a lot, but they still do it very funny in this. Will Smith is a badass still. I couldn't help but notice, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm still trying to catch up on the latest plastic surgery trends, but it seems like he has cheek implants and I couldn't stop looking at them. We watched The Boys last week, and we're watching the Herogasm episode. So tons of titties. And I commented like, yeah, a lot of them are fake too. And the host, Bryce the Huff, said, that's really weird that you noticed that. I'm like, how do you not notice implants? I don't know. I'm not bagging on anybody for having implants, but I feel like you can notice them. So when you go see Ride or Die, you let me know if you notice cheek implants. Because I found it very noticeable. There's nothing wrong with that. You stay young, Will Smith, however you wish to do so. It really doesn't have anything to do with making a review. I just thought it was weird that I was being attacked for noticing implants. I'm not attacking the implants. I'm just noticing that they did a job. And that's okay. Anyone can do that. Anyways, movie-wise, it is super fun. It's just, what was my problem with it? It was just a little too silly. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. It's kind of like Fast and Furious. It gets into a Fast and Furious realm for sure. And I didn't really notice that until now. There's nothing wrong with getting Fast and Furious silly, but it does like let go of a lot of like, fuck it. We don't need to think of this or that. And they lean more on silliness than they did on badassery. Having said that, they did some really cool cinematography tricks. If you check out Will Smith's Instagram, not only did they do the press release excellently. I'm losing my words today. Sorry about that. Not only did they do great press release on this, but they did great social media because they paired up with like as many social media people as I knew anyways. like people that do really funny videos like Lilo Post. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Max Goodrich. Don't know if I'm saying that right. The guy who does this all the time, who also has a cameo in this, by the way. So they got in touch with a lot of social media influencers who make funny videos and then made a lot of funny videos to help promote the film. And it did very well in the box office. And I think that was very smart because most people that would go see this is probably older. So it's like, hey, let's remind young people that we can be hip too. And I think that this film is good for all ages. For sure. It really, really is. There is an actor in it that I don't want to ruin. And I didn't like it that her name was in the opening credits, but it's a female comedian. I'll say that much. So when you see her in this, I want you to let me know what you thought of her. I thought she was hilarious, but I don't think every time I see a movie with this actress, I'm the person laughing the hardest. Not many other people are laughing. So is she funny? You let me know. Poppin' or not, it is poppin'. See it in theaters? Yeah, see it in theaters. See it with the crowd. It is a great crowd movie. I just have certain qualms with it that aren't like crucifiable or even worth mentioning, except like just a lot of tropes and silliness. I think that it was just a little too silly for me, but they did a lot of cool cinematography. They did a lot of cool action. How do I rate it in the series of films? I would still say Bad Boys 2 is my top one. Bad Boys 1 is right below it. They're really even. They're such different films that it's hard to compare them. Almost all of I will say all of them are very different from each other. 3 and 4 are the closest for sure, especially because they're directed by the same director. But even Bad Boys 1 and 2, even though they were both directed by Michael Bay, not only did budget make a difference into the film, but the look, the aesthetic, the cinematography, and the action were just cranked up to 11. And even though 3 I didn't find cranked up to 11, this film is cranked up to a 13,000 maybe. It's very silly. Very silly. Now, that made me think, what would be a good subject for tonight's episode? And it would be, what are the best buddy cop films and where can you watch them as of right now? I went through a list of the most popular buddy cop films and I picked out ones that definitely made me love cinema in general, because buddy cop films are one of the best pieces of cinema that you can go buy a ticket to go see in theaters. It does make people laugh depending on the genre of buddy cop, because I have a few in here that aren't comedies, but I still counted them as buddy cop. And some of these are cops that hate each other, but have such great chemistry that it made this film even stronger. So before we get into like my top 10 ones, you do already know number 1 might be Bad Boys 2, but it's definitely in my top 10. Other Will Smith one that is really dope is Men in Black. Now there is Bright as well, which you can watch on Netflix. I enjoyed it. I didn't rewatch it, but it wasn't like one of my favorite films. It was definitely different, not only for Will Smith, but for doing a buddy cop film in general, where it involves, is it aliens? No, it's like fairy tale creature world type thing with Joel Edgerton as his sidekick. I dug that. Well, now you have Will Smith as the sidekick, even though people definitely bought tickets to go see him with super cranky old white superstar Tommy Lee Jones, the person I've seen the most miserable at their jobs. And I've seen janitors clean up like puke or shit. I've seen people scrub toilets, people be assistants to terrible people. I've seen a lot of people that work very shitty jobs. No one looked more depressed doing their job like Tommy Lee Jones is at an award ceremony. It's just, and even when he's acting, he just seems very miserable. Yet he didn't show misery in this film. No, sorry, Bob. He actually seemed like the most hyped for this film, probably than more than any of his films, except for Batman Returns. Let's not take up too much time on Men in Black. You all know what it is. It's obviously one of the greatest. It's not in my top 10 at the moment because I guess I've seen it so many times. It is one of my favorite family films because it's definitely geared more towards adults, but it's interesting how every film after this ended up being more like for kids, you know? In any case, it's a great film. You can rent it for $4. 2 is dope. I love it. Rosario Dawson. 3, I'd rather have the amount of time Josh Brolin had, I would rather that have been Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Jones wasn't in it enough, but I do like Josh Brolin a lot, and he did a good job doing an impersonation of Tommy Lee Jones. Martin Lawrence had a few buddy cop movies himself. One was Blue Streak, which I don't really count this. This would be in my top 10 buddy cop films, but it's not a buddy cop film. I would compare it to Beverly Hills Cop when it comes to the chemistry that Martin Lawrence's character has to what Eddie Murphy's character has with Judge Reinhold and the other old bald guy. Luke Wilson is in it a good amount, but we're mostly focused on Martin Lawrence's character, and also we're following his story a lot more. It's not these two go on a mission and see what happens. They go on like 2 missions together, and besides that, Luke Wilson is just like a helper. But I really wish they would have made a sequel to this movie. I would have saw the fuck out of it. Dave Chappelle's in it. Really good. Check this out on Netflix. If you haven't seen this before, you should really check it out. It's super fun. National Security is an underrated buddy cop movie that definitely did more of their marketing on a Martin Lawrence vehicle, and that's it. But the reason I'm mentioning it, even though it's not one of the best movies in the world, it's still super fun. And Steve Zahn totally deserved to be recognized a lot more for this film, not only for just this film, but for his career in general. And I forgot to add on a movie, and I'm just realizing we're going into Eddie Murphy, and we already know that I'm going to mention 48 Hours and another 48 Hours. Both, I think, on Paramount Plus, but at least the first 48 Hours is on Paramount Plus. And I forgot also about I Spy with him and Owen Wilson. I really enjoyed that movie. I don't remember who else was in it, but I thought that was a pretty good movie. And Taxi was also, no, I'm not going to count Taxi, but I liked it when I was a kid. That was the Queen Latifah, Jimmy Fallon. I'm getting ahead of myself. 48 Hours, one of the OG buddy cop films. If you haven't seen it before, you should go watch it now. Even though Eddie Murphy is not a cop in it, I still count it as a buddy cop movie because he poses as a cop as well. That brings us to Beverly Hills Cop. The whole series is pretty fun. 3, I remember being pretty bad, but 1 and 2 are enjoyable. I'm sorry, 2 is enjoyable. 1 is excellent. And you can watch, I believe, the first one on Netflix and 2 and 3 on Paramount Plus with Axel F. Beverly Hills Cop, Axel F. coming out on July 3rd on Netflix. I saw the trailer. I think it looks dope. That was another one where I saw the trailer. I'm like, I don't know. Are we too old for this? But the trailer delivered, and the new Bad Boys films proves that you can bring back buddy cop action dopeness. Next, a little known buddy cop film was Two Guns with Denzel Washington and Marky Mark. Super fun film, dope action, decent comedy. These two actually have excellent chemistry together. I don't know how well it did at the box office, but I would have saw Two Guns 2, Electric Boogaloo, but they never did it. Paula Patton was really good in this. She was super sexy, and she needs to be in more films in general. Check out Two Guns if you haven't watched it before. It is an action comedy that no one talks about, but it was on Max. You can rent it now. Most of these movies, sadly, you have to rent right now instead of checking out on normal streaming sites. Zootopia is one that you can go on Disney Plus right now. To be honest, I don't remember this movie very well, but I mentioned I was doing buddy cop movies to several people, and specifically Robin was like, you got to mention Zootopia. People fucking love Zootopia. I need to rewatch it. I didn't dislike it. I liked it just fine, but people praise the hell out of this. Not praising in the way that makes me go, well, it wasn't that good. Praising in the way of me going, oh, I think I need to watch it again because you guys really love it. I don't dislike it by any means, but I need to find the love there. Check out Zootopia on Disney Plus right now. There's Chippendale Rescue Rangers, which you can check out on Disney Plus as well. This was surprisingly good. This probably would have been one of my favorite buddy cop films. Had I watched any Chippendale shit when I was a kid, I did not as well. But this was directed by Akiva Schaffer, who directed the Lonely Island sketches, along with co-starring and co-writing with Norma Tacone and famous Andy Samberg, not the other Andy Samberg, but the famous one. He directed this movie, and it has the voices of John Mulaney and Andy Samberg, so you already know they got good chemistry. It has a lot of great Easter eggs, but the Easter eggs, most of them, I don't catch because I don't know that world of cartoons very well. I'm going to guess 80s cartoons. I'm not that familiar with. I do believe that other people could enjoy. Adults will like this a lot more. I am an adult, but, you know, adults, ones that aren't, you know, a little off. But also kids still can enjoy it as well. But you can tell like all the little references and stuff are for the older folks. And for real, a very well-made film. The fact that one of them is CGI, they got CGI plastic surgery, I believe, and the other one stays in 2D. It's a cool juxtaposition and a cool like little jab at like how Hollywood is. And the future is as well. I do like grabbing. That is one reason Bad Boys is pretty good, is we are dealing with people from a different generation into today's time. And that is what's really appealing of that. It's like a time capsule of characters into newer films. Chippendale Rescue Rangers does it really well. It's weird that I'm spending so much time talking about this, but I don't know a soul that's watched it. And even if you're an adult, check this out. Trust me, it's actually fairly good. The Heat on Hulu right now with Melissa McCarthy and Sandra Bullock. I thought that they were going to do another one. They talked about this recently, but I didn't read the article. I always assumed that Sandra Bullock was the one that's like, no, I'm not doing a Heat 2. Not that she doesn't necessarily want to, but she probably doesn't believe in sequels because she had one that didn't go so well. I wish I had the picture, but it would have been a picture of Speed 2 Cruise Control, where it's a boat. It could have been a good idea. If Keanu Reeves is in it, I bet we all would have loved it. Hitman's Bodyguard and Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, which I think I liked more because Salma Hayek, but also Salma Hayek, really fucking hilarious work. And super fun film. Ryan Reynolds, Samuel L. Jackson, hard R films. Super dope. I like both of them a lot. You can rent them for $4. The Rundown on Hulu, not many people, I feel like some people must remember this movie, but it was one of The Rock's first movies with Sean William Scott, Rosario Dawson, and Christopher Walken. It was a super dope film. When it came out, I think it was my favorite action movie at the time, but I didn't know film yet, baby. You can check this out on Hulu right now. Midnight Run, I count this as a buddy cop film, but it is definitely more of just an odd couple cop movie without the cops as well. Robert De Niro plays a bounty hunter that's trying to take Charles Grodin's character for a bounty. And it's like an adventure action film that is not only fun, but funny. You can check this out on Prime. This was a very big movie at the time. Maybe not big, like, whoa, box office craziness. But this movie is referenced a lot amongst cinephiles. Sherlock Holmes, you can rent for $4. This Guy Ritchie installments was Sherlock Holmes and Sherlock Holmes Game of Shadows. I like both of them. 2, I disliked heavily because they killed off a character that I did not know was going to get killed off. I should have guessed because they weren't in the advertising that much. And I was like, something's afoot. I was so mad when they did it. But both films are not only great action, cool cinematography, excellent slow-mo shit, but witty comedy. And excellent chemistry between Jude Law and Robert Downey Jr. Speaking of Sherlock, what about Sherlock, the miniseries? I know we're talking about films, but great miniseries, and each episode is a movie in and of itself. Sincerely, each movie is a case, and it's an hour and a half long each episode, but they're movies. And again, great chemistry, decent cinematography. They know how to trick your audience, and you learn stuff. And it is like, whoa, repeat that again. It's fast talking Benedict Cumberbatch. Very fun. 21 Jump Street, speaking of fun. 21 and 22 are fun. 22 is a great spoof of buddy cop films in general, but also spoofs 21 Jump Street 2. Based on the television series with Johnny Depp, it has, what the fuck are their names? Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum acting like they're in high school, which, of course, look at them. Jonah Hill, maybe. But Channing Tatum, oh man, I think they make a joke about it that he does not look like a high schooler, but you know, the world of cinema. And Brie Larson and Dave Franco and who am I forgetting? Ice Cube. Yeah, it's a fun movie. I also will say I had Ride Along on here. I took it off. I Ride Along 2 was awful. I couldn't finish it. I'm sorry. I just didn't like it. Ride Along 1 was just fine. But I do like Ice Cube a lot, and I love Kevin Hart a lot too. I love them both. Probably Ice Cube more than Kevin. Bad Company with Chris Rock and Anthony Hopkins. Not one of the best buddy cop films, but just the fact that it happened makes me need to show you that not only did this movie happen, but you should go watch it. Enemy of the State, I probably should have put on here instead, because the only reason I didn't is because they're not necessarily cops, but it is an odd couple pairing. So I should have maybe retitled this as Odd Couple Action Copy Movies instead of Buddy Cop Movies. But this movie happened, and it wasn't that bad. End of Watch. This is where we get into like the serious buddy cop films where it's not necessarily a comedy. A lot of funny moments happen in the Jake Gyllenhaal, Michael Pena, David Ayer film. It ends wild. Very wild ending. I loved the ending, but it is wild. Not many people have seen this, but you should check it out, especially if you liked Training Day, because the writer of Training Day did this film. He also did Suicide Squad, the first one. He also wrote Training Day, which you can rent for $4 right now. One of the best films ever made. It's in my top. It's in my like top 10 of favorite films. The only reason I don't have it in the top 10 buddy cop movies is because they're not exactly buds. And Buddy Cop, I would say, is a comedy featuring two cops that are partners. And these two are partners, and they are trying to buddy up in the beginning, but it's not a comedy, even though a lot of funny moments happen. One of the best films ever. Go check it out, $4. Another more serious film that has funny times, very not well known, but it should have been, was 16 Blocks with Bruce Willis and Mos Def. Mos Def's voice pissed me off at first, and then as it went on, I'm like, hey, it's a choice, and I do believe that there's a person that sounds like this in real life. I love the premise. I love that it's a one-day movie, and I actually like not only the juxtaposition between Mos Def and Bruce Willis's character, but Bruce Willis plays a version of himself, old, doesn't talk much, and is just trying to do his job. But this character has never done anything badass in his life. He's been a normal cop that's like never drawn his gun before, I don't think. And in this, he's old. He loses his breath very quickly. And everything that he's encountering is like the first time he's ever encountered it. First time he's ever shot his gun, pulled his weapon, and he pulls it a lot. But it's pretty cool. I like it. I dig it. You can rent it for $4. Last Boy Scout, while we're on the subject of Bruce Willis, is this should be one of my favorite films, but I don't know, it's not. I think I saw it too late of an age. I knew I saw it when I was a kid. And this guy Damon Wayans. I love Damon Wayans. And this is a good pairing. I don't know. I guess just comparing to other buddy cop films, it's lower on my list. It does have some iconic scenes to remember, such as the running back or wide receiver, the football player running down the field and shooting people on his way. It was just a wild scene. You can write this for $4. Check it out if you haven't seen it. It is on the like list of movies to watch before you die, and directed by Tony Scott. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I did watch this recently, and it is a dated film, I will say. But when it came out, I thought it was one of the best written films. Rewatching it, it does get a little too goofy sometimes, but it's overall very, very witty. And I got to come up with a different I got to come up with a different word than witty, because I've said it several times today. But you know, and I said it with regards to Robert Downey Jr. Great pairing. Very well written for its time. And excellent mystery. This is an excellent mystery film. This is more of a PI cop film. Central Intelligence with The Rock and Kevin Hart. They should have made a Central Intelligence 2. I'll accept Jumanji 2, but I'd rather have had Central Intelligence 2. I don't know if anyone else saw this, but I liked it. Eugene Levy and Samuel L. Jackson and The Man. Super fun. Again, both aren't cops, but you get the idea. Tango and Cash. I just watched this recently. And I was going through like an 80s kick of action movies, and I was trying to go through Kurt Russell's filmography. I think I finished it when it comes to action films, but this was a delight because Sylvester Stallone, I definitely haven't seen all of his action movies, but I never knew if this pairing would work. And it does, and it's super fun. Check it out for $4. If you like 80s action movies, you'll love this. Even though it might have been made in the 90s. Hot Fuzz. Oh, okay. Now we're entering into my top 10 favorite buddy cop films, if I had to make some. So in no particular order, Hot Fuzz is on that list. It is more of a spoof of action films in general, but it does it very, very well with its own story. I'd say my biggest qualm with why it's not my favorite in the Cornetto trilogy, which are the 3 films that were written by Simon Pegg and starring Simon Pegg, and also written by Edgar Wright and directed by Edgar Wright. It's along with making Shaun of the Dead before this and World's End after this, Hot Fuzz is very close to being my favorite. Most people that love the Cornetto trilogy choose Hot Fuzz as their favorites. My only qualm with the film is that I didn't think its third act was badass enough. I guess I wanted him to be murking more motherfuckers, even though it wasn't a small town. And the villains that they are versing, there's not enough of them. So I feel like that's why they couldn't do like more badass scenes, I guess. Not to say it's not a badass film. They just really, really built up the action for the third act, and it didn't fall flat. I just had higher expectations. Man from U.N.C.L.E. I know for a fact not enough people saw this because they didn't make a second one. It's definitely impossible for them to make it now because we found out that Armie Hammer is a cannibal. But Henry Cavill, Alicia Vikander, and Hannibal Lecter star in Guy Ritchie's Man from U.N.C.L.E., which is based off of an old TV show that I never watched. But the writing, the cinematography, the editing, the music, and just the story in general, it's in the cast. It's so good, guys. It's so good all over. Watch this film. It's very, very good. You can check it out on Max right now. Too Fast, Too Furious. Maybe my favorite Fast and Furious movie. I ain't gonna lie. It's between this, Fast 5, and Fast and Furious, the original. Tyrese Gibson and the late, great Paul Walker was in John Singleton's Fast Furious movie, which I remember a lot of people were like, what? We don't want to see this movie without Vin Diesel. And then you watch it and you're like, whoa, this movie's really good. I love this movie. I think pacing is what made me love this movie more than Fast and Furious. There's just something about the pacing in this film that's really, really good. I like how they center on the characters discovering things, and it was kind of like a mystery cop movie. Again, Tyrese isn't a cop, but he does work for the police in this, so that's pretty cool. Next. Who framed Roger Rabbit? Well, it wasn't Bob Hoskins. He was, Roger Rabbit's partner. If you haven't seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit, you've been living under a rock. This was a 1988 film, so I don't blame you completely. You might find it dated, but this was one of the first films that popularized animation and live action mixture, and it does it not only great, but also one of the first, and also made a cool world where cartoons are real. This made me think that cartoons were real when I was younger, and I remember I said that to one of Blaze's ex-girlfriends, and she goes, no, I knew they were drawings, and I felt dumb. I'm like, oh, I'm the only one that thought cartoons were real at some point in my life. Hey, I don't remember how old I was when I saw this, but it came out before I was bored. So maybe I watched it 1,000 times between the ages of 1 month and 13 and thought that cartoons were real. I didn't think cartoons were real when I was 10 or 6 or 5. Maybe when I was 5. If you haven't seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit, check it out. It's so dope. Remember Toontown and Christopher Lloyd? So good. The Lethal Weapons is, wrong Lethal Weapon. That's Lethal Weapon 5 from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Great show. Check it out. Now, I chose this poster because this is the poster I always think of when I think of Lethal Weapon. And it's interesting because I definitely watched 1 and 3 when I was a kid. I do not remember 2 like at all, but 4 was the one I remembered the most. I think I went with my grandpa in theaters to see this, but I loved this movie. I was also a big Jet Li fan when I was younger, so not only him being a villain, but him versing them, and I thought that their fight scenes were really, really cool. I just loved this movie so much. It was super dope. The violence was good. It was at a time where I loved Mel Gibson before finding out, like, he's got some issues. Danny Glover, Joe Pesci, Rene Russo, Chris Rock. Super dope. The other guys, of course, this is one of the best cop. This might be the best cop movie ever. It's so good. It's probably my favorite Will Ferrell movie. I know why we got Daddy's Home too, but probably money. But come on, guys. This deserved a second movie. It was so good. I'm a swan. You gotta let me fly. Or is he a goose? I can't remember. You gotta let me fly, Captain. Don't go chasing waterfalls. Such a good movie. If you haven't seen this, if you don't like Will Ferrell, I can't say this will change your mind. You might still dislike Will Ferrell, but it's so fucking good, guys. Just think of this if you dislike Will Ferrell. This was directed by Adam McKay, who's an Academy Award winner. So, know that. The Nice Guys, one of the best buddy cop movies ever. I would call this a private detective or detective buddy cop movie, but very underrated. Some of the best writing ever. I will say watch this. If you want to watch the original Iron Man, go check out Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, because that's what it is. If you want to watch something that's less dated and I'd say more fun, one of the silliest you'll see Ryan Gosling. I think he did a comedy before this, but this was one of his first like comedies, and he did very well in it. He was hilarious in it. Jordan Colberta says, one shot Jeter, the other shot in Office. Oh, okay. The other guys. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Or aim for you thinking what I'm thinking? Aim for the bushes? Yeah. And there's no bushes. That was one of my favorite shots in the film. Anyways, back to I gotta get rid of this. Back to Nice Guys. Written and directed by Shane Black, starring Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. Very fun film. I know most of you haven't watched it. Trust me, you should go watch it right now. The Rush Hours need I say more? Even 3 was enjoyable. I remember the first time I watched 3, I thought it was not good. I think I'm not good for thinking that, because I rewatched it like last year. I'm like, no, this is decent. It's no Rush Hour 2. This is another case of like Bad Boys 1 or Bad Boys 2. Bad Boys 2 is my favorite when I was a kid. It's always going to be my favorite, even though 1 is probably superior. But they put a lot more work into 2. And that gun scene with the Rastafarians, that was fucking awesome. Anyway, sorry. Rush Hour 1 or 2. 2 is my favorite when I was a kid, and it's probably because they got along the most. I can't remember 3 that well, but I know 3 isn't one of the best. I loved 2 because they were tight together from beginning to end. This, it's about them like not getting along until they finally get along to finish the job. But it's so well made. Check it out. Check all of them out on Tubi. And I have decided if I'm going to do a subject each week, and I can't give you guys my like absolute favorite films. I'm going to choose my favorite of subgenres, and I'll start writing them down, and we'll have some awards show where we like do trivia of like, well, who's going to win the best buddy cop movie? If you watch the episode, you'd remember it's Die Hard with a Vengeance. If I'm going to pick my favorite buddy cop movie, it's this. But they're both not cops, so I can't pick that. We're going to have to go back to square. But Bad Boys 2. Bad Boys 2 wins the best buddy cop movie. Or Rush Hour. We'll revisit this topic. Anyways, Die Hard with a Vengeance is probably my favorite Die Hard film. I know Die Hard 1 is the OG, and it's so good, and blah, 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 blah. This is so great. Not only is it a one-day movie, it's a great New York City movie where you'll learn shit about New York City. It's a great pairing. I think it's the first pairing of Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson. Unless Pulp Fiction came out before this. Granted, they didn't share any scenes together, but you get the idea. They were in a lot of movies together. It's so great. Great. It's so great. I love the games in it, Simon Says, and that makes them run all over New York City trying to find the bombs. It's so... Jeremy Irons is such a great fucking villain. It's so great, guys. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out on Tubi right now. All right, enough about buddy cop movies. Let's talk about what else is in theaters. The Watchers. Poppin' or not, I'm trying to say less negative things about things these days, and I will tell you, I did not enjoy this movie. I didn't leave early. I wanted to several times because it got progressively worse. Dakota Fanning, great. Cinematography, great. Writing, this was written and directed by Ishana Shyamalan. Ishana Shyamalan. M. Night Shyamalan's daughter. She gets her dialogue from her daddy. Because Exposition City and fairies and it wasn't the best first film, but it was very imaginative, and it was like, I want characters stuck in this situation. I'll explain what's going on as the movie progresses, but I won't do it in a fun, cool way, and the characters will be very two-dimensional, and I'll give very strange themes that relate to each other, even though they don't relate to each other. And it's I'll give weird twists, because there's one twist that's not great. But poppin' or not, I will say not poppin' for me. I will say if you don't like, if you don't like The Village or Lady in the Water, you will hate this movie. I did not like this movie strongly. I don't know if I can say I hated it, though, because I hated Strangers Chapter 1, and I walked out that bitch. This one, I didn't walk out. I was like, I know that this movie's going to have a twist, so let me stick around. And I stuck around, but I left before the credits ended, but I knew it was the final shot of the movie. Jordan Colberta says, even with the trailers, I feel like it was too drawn out. I'm assuming we're talking about The Watchers. Yeah, absolutely. Not only too drawn out, but more and more convoluted. There's one part where they discover a hatch. So, like, it's got, like, heavy Lost vibes. There's a long hatch scene that's really stupid. Where I completely checked out, even though I the whole time I'm like, I'm definitely checked out. I didn't know how checked out I was until outside of the house that they're staying in, they find a circular carved rock where you really learn what the creatures are. And it's so stupid. It's so goddamn stupid. I hated it. The explanation of what's going on is worse than the movie. I'll say that. But the way that we, the audience, discover what's going on is done so poorly that it made me very much dislike the movie. Again, Dakota Fanning and cinematography, A1. The creatures, before you see them full on, are actually very terrifying. But yeah, I'm going to call that a swing and a miss. Swing and a hit is Hitman. Swinging and a Hitman on Netflix right now. Stars Glenn Powell. It was also co-written by Glenn Powell and the film's director, Richard Linklater. Dazed and Confused, Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, School of Rock. He's done a bunch of movies. This one is about professional killer Gary Johnson breaks protocol to help a desperate woman trying to flee an abusive husband and finds himself falling for her. All right. So I'm glad I stayed away from trailers, and I'm glad that this didn't give out what the movie's actually about. It is about the profession of being a hitman, and Glenn Powell does play multiple characters, but it's not really about a hitman. And I don't want to give it away, because going into this movie blind, you just know the movie's called Hitman. So you're like, okay, I'm assuming I'm going to watch a movie. You think you know what it's about. You don't. And in the beginning, for me, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this movie. This is very different from what I thought it was going to be. And as the film progresses, I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. The acting is A1. Retta from 30 Rock. Retta from Parks and Recreation. I haven't seen her, I don't think, in anything besides Parks and Recreation and The Good Girls. She's in this. She's great. But, man, this is a really good film. When you get into it, it is good. When Glenn Powell starts really becoming a hitman, it gets really good. The movie is based on a true story, apparently. And when they explain it at the end, it's very satisfying. The romance between Glenn Powell's character and Adria Arjano, who I'm probably mispronouncing like a motherfucker. By the way, Adria, thank you for joining Tony's. I used to have a list of crushes, or my wife. Tony's crushes. What was it? Tony's girlfriend, movie star girlfriends. I can't remember what it was, but she's on my list along with Salma Hayek and blah, blah, blah. She is so goddamn sexy in this movie. And this is not me objectifying her. This is me. Oh, obviously, I guess I kind of am a little bit. But the movie is a sexy movie. There's a lot of sexiness going on in it. This is more of a romance, I'd say. This is more of a romance. Some sexy scenes. It's really good. Great job. It was a great movie. The end, when everything goes wrong, you are like, what? Oh no. Even though you've seen it 1,000 times, but when he makes a certain decision at the end of the movie, it's done in like a I love you sort of way, but it's a dark scene that is done comedically. And it's good, man. It's very, very good. I would say this is the best thing I watched all weekend besides rewatching Die Hard with a Vengeance. I enjoyed it. I won't say I enjoyed it more than Bad Boys Ride or Die, because Bad Boys Ride or Die, even though I had issues with it, it's an extremely fun film. This movie is the best film, the best made film this weekend. You don't have to go to theaters to check it out. You can go on Netflix right now. The only new show that came out was Acolyte, at least the only new show that I was interested in. It's a Star Wars show. Poppin' or not, I'm going to say it tries a little too hard to be The Matrix instead of Star Wars. I don't think it did Jedis very well, specifically from a couple young Jedis. But I do find it interesting. I like it more than Andor. If you love Andor, you're probably going to hate it because you and I differ. Because I fucking hated Andor and everyone loved it. I didn't hate Andor. I loved 2 episodes. I won't talk about it again because I've talked about it at length. This show is very enjoyable. I just don't think they did Jedis right. And the opening scene is with Carrie-Anne Moss doing a Morpheus-type fight scene, except Trinity is in it. And I'm not knocking Carrie-Anne Moss. I'm not knocking the scene necessarily. It's kind of cool, but it's a little too Matrix than it is Star Wars. Having said that, is it a Star Wars show? The Jedis are just kind of weird in it, man. They're very emotional and they're not supposed to be, but they're young. So, you know, the one I'm complaining about is a Jedi Knight, and Anakin was a Jedi Knight, and he was, you know, kind of like, hey man, chill out. You got to learn to be a Jedi. So I guess it does it right. I will continue to watch it, and I like it more than Andor. All right, let's go through some new. Holy shit, we're 53 minutes in. What did I talk about for so long? Probably the buddy cop movies. All right, let's go through this quick. Max is raising their prices on you. Let's see how fast we do this. I think I can do this in 5 minutes. Max is, as always, I get my sources provided by Variety, Deadline, and Hollywood Reporter. If you have Max, you're going to notice there's going to be a price increase. The ad-free plan is going to increase to $1, I wish. Going to increase $1 per month to $16.99. The yearly ad-free plan is going to increase by $20 to $169.99 per month. The monthly ultimate ad-free plan will increase by $1 a month to $21. And the yearly ultimate ad-free plan, ya boy, is up by $10 to $210 a year. I'm totally okay with that. That's a lot of money, but it's a one-time deal, so I'll just do it. Not Ian McKellen. Godzilla -1 is on Netflix right now. Watch the fuck out of it. It's so badass. Monkey Man is on Peacock right now. Very badass. If you like John Wick, it's a really badass movie. I know I explained my issues with it, but it's still popping. Everyone should watch it. Monkey Man, Peacock right now. The Peaky Blinders movie has been officially announced by Netflix. Probably coming out next year or the year after. Ian McKellen would be Gandalf again. They have announced that they're doing a Lord of the Rings Hunt for Gollum movie with Peter Jackson to produce and Andy Serkis to star and direct. When Ian was asked if he would do the film, he would say, "If I'm still alive, I'll play Gandalf again." Dope. Ish. I mean, whatever. I mean, I like Ian McKellen, so I guess if you're going to have Gandalf, get Ian McKellen again. But he is really old. I get we have AI and de-aging. What film has done it really well? I know there have been some, but there's only been some, a minute some. Jeremy Renner did not, sorry if I fucked up that title. Jeremy Renner didn't want to die in Mission Impossible. You probably noticed that Jeremy Renner hasn't been in the Mission Impossibles lately. Apparently, they tried to bring him overseas for a week just to kill off his character. He said, "No, you don't get to do that. You're not going to drag me over there just to kill off my character. Like, get out of here. If you're going to do this, you're going to use my character, and you're going to do it right." I yelled at the director, "Dude, you're not going to do this to me like that. You're not going to do me wrong. I was supposed to do more with them. I love those guys. I love Tom so much. We had so much fun. It requires a lot of time away. It's all in London. I had to go be a dad. It just wasn't going to work out then. Maybe now that I have my daughter that's older, that could happen. I'd always jump into Mission Impossible anytime and back into Brandt. It's great." As a Mission Impossible fan, I was curious, where the fuck's Jeremy Renner? They may have discussed this before, but I didn't know that they were like, you can kind of see that they were like drawing away from Jeremy Renner. It seemed like they were teeing up Jeremy Renner to be the new Mission Impossible guy. And Tom Cruise was like, "Nuh-uh, this is my Saga, bitch." And then Jeremy Renner was getting sidelined, but we don't need him. They have so many characters now, but whatever. It'd be cool to see him again, I guess. Biggest news of the week. They announced that they got rid of the Avengers director already, but they might have Sean Levy do it. Sean Levy, the only reason they're eyeing him is because there's a lot of hype for Wolverine and Deadpool. I'm not saying that he's making the film. He's not making the film better. I'm sure he's bringing a lot to the table. But everyone and their mother would still be super excited for Wolverine and Deadpool as long as it's still Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman in the movie. Doesn't matter who directs it. That's why I think that they are not thinking correctly when it comes to choosing a director. Not to say Sean can't do it. I think it'd be an interesting choice. It'd be more of a fun choice for sure, because he is a fun director. If you look at his filmography, he did The Night at the Museums 1 and 2. He did Free Guy, Adam Project, which was okay. Real Steel, which was okay. But I was in it. You can't see me, but I was there for filming. I saw Hugh Jackman, and I saw Hugh Jackman and the rest of the cast and crew sing Happy Birthday to Sean Levy, because apparently it was his birthday when they were filming it. Anyways, Big Fat Liar, remember that one? Just Married, Cheaper by the Dozen, Pink Panther, Internship, a lot of Stranger Things episodes. He's an excellent, fun director, but directing an Avengers movie, I can see him doing that. I just think that you guys are choosing him for the wrong reasons. However, we shall see. If they do decide on hiring him, I think that means that we're going to see a lot of cool shit that connects to the greater MCU in Wolverine and Deadpool. All of those things that we thought were going to happen, I think that this raises the chances of it happening. That bird just scared the shit out of me. Next, Last of Us 2. A lot of Last of Us 2 news came about. Specifically that season 2 is going to arrive next year. It'll be shorter than season 1 with 7 episodes. However, there is a potential third season, which will be significantly larger and bigger in scope. Basically, I'm not going to read all this, but basically they have a lot of plans for how the show is going to go. If you played the second game, you would think that something huge is going to happen in the beginning of this next season. I think that they're saving it for the end of season 2. I think the second game is going to be split between seasons 2 and 3. And I think if you played the video game, you know exactly how I mean. So, interesting. Big Little Lies is moving Fast and Furious for their season 3. Idris Elba discusses how playing villains can be therapeutic. These people get to say things that we only think in the deepest, darkest recesses of our brains. They say horrible things and scream horrible things and get to be completely socially unacceptable. As an actor, that's sometimes a gift. Sometimes a bit of therapy. That was a terrible Idris Elba. I think I'm getting sick. I might call into work tomorrow. I find this interesting, and I don't think I've ever played a villain in acting, but this makes me want to play villains because I always want to say the truth. I've said the truth too much on this show alone, but I do find it interesting that playing a villain could be therapeutic because you can be evil legally for a second. I did not do all the titles. Beavis and Butthead season 3 of the new series is going to be coming to Comedy Central soon. Paul Giamatti is going to star in a Hostel TV series by Eli Roth. Not much is known except for that. I'm down. Christina Milian is playing LaGuerta in Dexter original. The prequel Dexter series called Dexter Original Sin, which is about the upbringing of Dexter and his dark passenger, where he shouldn't know any of the characters from Miami Metro, but they casted younger actors to play those characters. I'm actually kind of excited because that makes me think that they're going to be beat cops investigating Lil Dexy's murders. So I think that'll be pretty interesting. I too cannot wait for the Hostel TV series, especially because Eli Roth I think he's going to be directing and show running, hopefully. Probably not, though, honestly. Marion Cotillard has been announced to join the morning show. Tokyo Vice Season 3, or Tokyo Vice canceled after 2 seasons. I talked about the show at length. I also said they don't need a Season 3. So I'm not necessarily happy it got canceled because it was a very well-made show, but it's not the worst news in the world that it got canceled because you should still watch the show, and when it ends, you'll be like, yep, that was just fine. They're making a Plankton movie for Netflix coming out next year. They're rebooting White Collar. I don't know if you remember that show. I didn't watch it, but I thought that was interesting. Average Joe Season 2 with Dion Cole is coming to BET Plus, which is about a plumber who discovers his recently deceased father lived a secret life and stole millions of dollars. It basically looks like Ozark a little bit. But looks a little better, actually. I'm glad it's got a Season 2. Paul Royale got greenlit for a Season 2. There is going to be a Terminator animated series with Timothy Olyphant voicing the new Terminator. This is going to be coming to Netflix soon. It's set in the Terminator universe, but it's centered on different characters. I think this might be good. Oh, if you've never seen Creep or Creep 2, I think they're on Netflix, but they're doing a television series on it. Highly, highly recommend to watch the movies. They are indeed creepy. They are first person or POV, found footage. And now each episode is going to center on this character killing a new victim of the week, apparently. Good idea. That's it for the news. All right, cool. We're going to get through. I know we're over an hour, but I promise I'm going to go fast. Right now, I'm watching X-Men, the animated series, just in time for the X-Men 97 season that just started. I'm excited to binge that. Dark Matter, still a great show that you should watch on Apple TV+. Granted, it is a multiverse television series, but it is super, super, super dope. And the honorable mentions of things that I have not watched, but you might want to, are Sweet Tooth, which is pretty popular on Netflix. I don't know how popular the new season is, but that's out. Next. Power Book 2 Ghost has started their final part of their last season, I think. Maybe their final part or the first part of their final season. The only reason I'm not watching this right now is because I'm not caught up. Queenie, which is on Hulu right now, is about Queenie Jenkins, who is a 25-year-old Jamaican British woman. Maybe she's tiny. I can't tell from that picture. In South London, living in between two cultures and entering neatly into neither. I watched a trailer of this and it looked pretty good. Now, what's coming out next week that I want to see that you might want to see too? Let's see. Inside Out 2. Poppin' or not, I think it'll be enjoyable for the family. I don't think it'll be as good as the first one. This seems to be more of a cash grab than it does to be a new good film. Granted, I didn't watch the trailer. I don't necessarily know what it's about, but I know that Bill Hader and Mindy Kaling didn't return, and that made me think, oh, maybe they don't like the script. Or maybe they signed on to do that. Maybe they said, hey, we're doing another movie without actually having an idea. Next. Shit. Banners. Tuesday. This is coming out in select theaters. It looks very depressing. A mother and daughter and her daughter must confront death when it arrives in the form of an astonishing talking bird. Sounds like a comedy. Check out the trailer. It looks very, very sad. This stars Julia Louis-Dreyfus and is also an A24 film. It looks like it's way too depressing. If I watch this, I will watch it in the comfort of my own home just in case I sweat from my eyeballs. But it does look very well made. Check out the trailer right now, Tuesday. Ultraman Rising, if you got kids and you want them to shut the fuck up and just sit down for a second so you can have your own privacy and look at your yearbook in the other room, looking at memories of what life could have been and dreams that were crushed. Check out Ultraman Rising for your kids on Netflix Wednesday. It looks okay. It actually looks all right. It looks okay. Biggest shows of the new week. Thursday is the return of The Boys. If you want to check it out with a group of people for free and win prizes, have free pop, free drinks, and grab a drink from the Ghostlight Bar, have an intermission break where you can smoke weed in the backyard, go to the watch party at the Black Box Theater this Saturday at 10:30 p.m., where I will be on the panel along with some pretty funny folks to watch this new premiere of The Boys. They are premiering 3 episodes this Thursday. If you haven't watched Gen V, watch Gen V right now before watching The Boys because it ties in very well to the series. Also returning is House of the Dragon. I'm trying to rewatch this show, but I'm so uninterested. I love Game of Thrones, and this is a very well-made show, and it does, to me, get better and better. But I guess because I know all these characters are going to die and we're going to jump forward in the future so much, I'm not paying as much attention as I should. I'm also a very busy man. But it's returning Max this Sunday. Presumed Innocence. This is a film with Jake Gyllenhaal that tells the story of a horrific murder that upends the Chicago prosecuting attorney's office, which one of its own is suspected of the crime. Stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Ruth Negga, Peter Skarsgård, and Bill Camp. Looks very well made, and I think it's a mini-series that this was made into a movie before with Harrison Ford as Jake Gyllenhaal's character. I never watched it, but I kind of want to watch the movie before. This show starts on Apple TV Plus Wednesday. Another show that I don't think I'll watch because it's on MGM Plus. I don't know who the fuck has that streaming channel, but if you do, check out this show. It looks pretty good. Tells the story of Roman Compt, a Cuban exile, CIA operative, and general manager of the Hotel Mutiny, the glamorous epicenter of the late 70s and early 80s Miami cocaína scene. This comes from the co-creators of Narcos and Godfather of Harlem, which is pretty cool. It also has Michael Chiklis, who I've personally worked with before. Good guy. In the movie High School, which you can watch on Prime right now, I think. The only other show that's coming out that I'm not going to watch that you'll probably be excited for is Bridgerton Season 3 Part 2 dropping on Netflix Thursday. I won't watch this, but maybe some of you nerds will want to watch the Tony Awards, which will be on Sunday, CBS. Long episode again. I apologize. I got to remember the only reason this was a long episode is because I'm adding in subjects of the week, which I do find very fun. I'm going to keep the subjects. I got to tighten it up. So I'll get a timer and make it a lot less long for you guys. Thank you for tuning in. If you're a fan, please hit that like and subscribe button. Sincerely, hit that fucking like button. Hit that subscribe button and hit that share button. Good night. Oh, here's that Presumed Innocent film.